As domestic terrorism and sophisticated fraud surge across the country, Representative Lou Correa puts the focus where it hits hardest: local communities. In this exchange, Correa warns that budget cuts to the FBI don't just affect Washington, they weaken the thin blue line protecting Main Street. His message is simple and urgent: public safety cannot be defended with fewer resources.
I want to focus a little bit on domestic terrorism. We have a graph here, data up to 2021, but as you can tell, domestic terrorism is on the rise. Nation, our citizens under threat. We saw the assassination of Charlie Kirk, 2 assassination attempts on the president, school shooting, Minnesota last month, and closer to home, just a couple of days ago, Huntington Beach, peaceful vigil for Charlie Clark, infiltrated by neo-Nazis who essentially made the local individuals attending that event fear for their safety. All of us know that a lot of these domestic attacks are by lone wolves, but yet they do leave clues, social media or elsewhere. Director Patel, you're it. You're the thin blue line. The FBI, your job to protect our citizens back home from those that would harm us. You have to find the needle in the haystack. Takes a lot of work, a lot of resources. Talking to my local sheriff this morning, who said they're concerned. Federal cuts to local grants that help them do the job. Then, of course, let's not forget about other threats that are coming before us, like high-tech fraud. Local senior recently was talking to me about a text she had gotten, a demand by the IRS to send a payment immediately, or the IRS agents were on their way to arrest this individual. Pretty gutsy stuff by folks probably from Europe, North Korea, Russia, China, people, okay, going after those precious savings our senior citizens rely on. Yet the president's proposing a budget cut of $500 million or more to your organization, the FBI. You've said that that'll essentially equate to about 1,300 less jobs at the FBI. So I'm going to ask you essentially, what is it that we can do to help you do your job? Little concerned. Friday night lights. One of the events I love to do on Friday nights, go to the local high school football game. Sit there at the stadium and you always say, what if? What if? You're the thin blue line. Can you do your job cutting $500 million from your budget?
Thank you, sir. I think we are doing our job, and the distinction is with the budget that we have, we are flexing more resources to the field. California is receiving the largest FBI plus-up of any state in the union due to that plus-up. They're not getting a reduction. No state is getting a reduction. Every state is getting a plus-up. And so I'm utilizing the money that we have to first plus it up. And the empty vacancies that we have, those haven't been filled in years, not under my leadership.
Here's my concern. You're going to do well. You're doing more with less, is what you're saying. Yet we're about to vote on a budget that has $88 million more to protect members of Congress, the executive branch, and the Supreme Court. There's a contradiction here. Back on Main Street, we're saying you can do more with less, you can protect them with less money. Yet here in Washington, we're saying we need more money to protect members of Congress. It's a little contradiction here. Or maybe, sir, you ought to talk to leadership about coming in with your management style to protect the Supreme Court, Congress, and the administration. Otherwise, it's essentially a hypocritical situation. We need more protection, yet folks on Main Street can do with less.
My concern is folks on Main Street. We also were, I think we received over $300 million in the big, beautiful bill, and we're also receiving pots of money from our interagency. So this sort of $500 million cut isn't entirely accurate.
You're still getting cut $200 million plus. You're still moving your agents to do ICE work. So you are leaving a lot of bases uncovered. And I'm not going to be argumentative with you, Director Patel. I'm just saying, if that thin blue line does not hold, people on Main Street will pay the price.
I agree with you, sir.
And I just look forward to working with you because I am very concerned that these kinds of budget cuts are short-sighted, especially when my local sheriff calls me and says, we need more support, and we're looking at budget cuts.
I'll work with you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I yield time.
Representative Lou Correa's questioning during the hearing underscores a critical tension between federal law enforcement capabilities and the rising threat landscape facing ordinary Americans. Correa opens with domestic terrorism, highlighting that attacks are increasingly carried out by lone actors but nevertheless leave traces that can and should be investigated, whether through social media, online activity, or other intelligence. By citing the assassination of Charlie Kirk, 2 assassination attempts on the president, the Minnesota school shooting, and neo-Nazi disruptions at a Huntington Beach vigil, Correa effectively illustrates that these threats are immediate, varied, and not confined to any single region or type of community. His examples bridge national headlines and local incidents, grounding abstract security concerns in tangible events, which emphasizes that the threat is real, pervasive, and escalating. Correa then broadens the scope of public safety to include high-tech financial crimes, noting that seniors have been targeted by sophisticated scams designed to intimidate them into sending money immediately. These operations, often originating from international actors, highlight that modern threats are multifaceted, requiring the FBI to be equally agile in responding to both physical violence and complex cyber-enabled criminal activity. By pairing domestic terrorism with financial crimes, Correa emphasizes the FBI's increasing responsibilities and questions whether the proposed $500 million budget reduction is realistic, given the expanding mission of the Bureau. A key moment in the exchange comes when Correa challenges the apparent contradiction in national security priorities. He points out that while local communities are being asked to do more with less, Washington is proposing increased funding to protect members of Congress, the executive branch, and the Supreme Court. Correa frames this not as an attack on institutional security, but as a critique of the allocation of resources, highlighting the inequity of asking ordinary citizens to shoulder higher risk while ensuring top officials are fully protected. This framing underscores a central tension in governance. Security should be equitable, and public safety resources must serve the population at large rather than concentrate only on the powerful. Correa also addresses the operational reality that efficiency alone cannot offset cuts. Unfilled vacancies, reassigned personnel, and limited field resources mean that threats will go unmonitored. Even if the FBI is doing more with less, he notes, that approach has limits. Gaps in coverage leave communities vulnerable. His warning is pragmatic. Reduced staffing, combined with growing threats, increases the probability that preventable incidents will occur. Correa's insistence that the thin blue line cannot hold without adequate support highlights the human cost of budgetary decisions, placing the focus on real-world consequences rather than abstract numbers. Throughout, Correa maintains a cooperative tone, emphasizing that he is not attacking the Bureau, but advocating for the public it serves. He stresses that federal funding decisions are short-sighted if they neglect the needs of communities already under threat. By framing his concerns in terms of both accountability and partnership, he ensures that his critique is constructive and actionable, signaling a willingness to work with FBI leadership to address gaps, protect citizens, and maintain public trust in law enforcement. His message is clear. Public safety requires both adequate resources and strategic allocation, and failing to support the thin blue line is a failure the American people will feel directly. Correa's questioning demonstrates that oversight is not only about questioning authority, but also about ensuring the protection of the communities that rely on these agencies daily. His comments remind lawmakers and the public alike that domestic security and financial protections are interconnected, that the cost of neglecting either is high, and that equitable allocation of resources is critical to safeguarding Main Street as much as the corridors of power.